interested in seed sector, the agriculture for commercial ways of plant breeding and how it helps our agriculture, and also conduct annual conferences on crop improvement that encompasses agronomy, physiology, agricultural engineering, all the areas that help us to improve the finally farm output for the small farmers, bigger farmers. So the ATPBR has already done 2 national level conferences. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
2019,
I think they should mute their microphones.
कैल्शियम नाइट्रेट का प्रशांत को पूछ लो एक बार, शायद उसका भी
I request everybody to mute their.
उसका 1 ग्राम ही है शायद, एक बार
Just 1 second, sir. So can you please unmute yourself, Tiku sir? Tiku sir, can you please unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
So ATPBR has already conducted 2 national level conferences. One was in 2019, and the other one was in Aurangabad, and the next one was in January 2020 in US Dharwad, with the collaboration of ICR, universities, etc. So we had very good participation and good outcomes from those. This year we could not conduct. It was scheduled in Bhubaneswar, but we couldn't because of the COVID. So we decided to have, ATPBR decided to have monthly webinars, which will take care of the areas that we want to discuss for improvement of the seed sector. And with that, we requested the first speaker. About him, you will listen a little later. I welcome you all. The one thing extra I wanted to add was that one of the organizers, first founder directors of ATPBR, Dr. Kanchole, who was heading the biochemistry at BAM in Aurangabad for about 20 years, and later associated with MGM. We lost him due to COVID, and would like to convey our heartfelt condolences to his family. So he is there as one of the organizers. So I now want to hand over to Dr. K. Narayanan, whom you all know as an industry stalwart. He has a background in genetics and plant breeding, and then worked in the academia for some years before joining Monsanto as head of one of the divisions, and then went on to establish Metahelix, a seed company, for the next, I think, 20 years or so, which is today a Tata company. And now Dr. Narayanan has a own company called Soul Foods, which gives millets in various forms for healthy food. I now hand over to the speaker. Thank you. Narayanan?
Narayan sir, you are muted. Can you please unmute yourself?
Sure.
Narayan sir?
So good morning again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay. Good morning and welcome to all of you. We have now over 50 participants, and welcome also those people who will be joining subsequently. This first webinar in this series is going to address the topic of seed sector trends for the next decade. And as you know, for the seed industry, not just in India, but globally, it cannot continue to be business as usual. There are technological trends which is going to force major changes. There are challenges coming up, whether it be in the form of climate change or vagaries of climate, whether it be in terms of the business practices. There are going to be a number of changes. And to discuss the potential or the probable changes in the foreseeable future, I think we are very fortunate today to have Dr. Mr. Kaundinya. an old friend of mine, and it'll be great to hear his perspective, because if you look at his experience, there is probably no other person better qualified which we can think of to address this subject. You know, Ram Kaundinya started off as a student of agriculture from Bapatla. At that time it was Andhra Pradesh Agriculture University. And then he went on to do a management degree in the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Post his acquisition of these academic qualifications, I think he started his career in the agrochemical industry. After almost 2 decades or over 2 decades of a very successful stint in the agrochemical industry, he went on to take on bigger and bigger responsibilities in the seed sector or the agri-input sector, first with Emergent Genetics as its CEO, and then as the global CEO of Advanta, where during his tenure, I think the company went public. And so he is not just an expert in running a agri-input or a seed organization, but also very clued into the policy and the regulatory framework of things. I think post his tenure as the global CEO, he started taking more and more interest in the industry in general and became very active participant in the industry organization. I remember, his tenure as chairman of the agriculture group in the ABLE, Association of Biotechnology-Led Enterprises, which he very successfully steered, and then moved on to the as the Director General now in the Federation of the Seed Industry of India. So he is an opinion maker. I'm sure many of you would have read his articles, which come in the popular as well as the economic newspapers of the country. Very incisive, not just cribbing about problems, but actually suggesting solutions. So without much further ado, I would like to hand over this cyberspace to Mr. Ram Kaundinya to give his perspective on what will be the trends that the seed sector will see in the foreseeable future. So over to you, Ram.
Thank you, Dr. Narayanan, and thanks to Suren and all those who have decided to make me the first speaker in this series. I think that's a great honor, and I'm really honored by this, and I hope I can do justice to this. I know that you are all very highly qualified technical people. I'm a pure commercial person. So my talk will be more from a commercial angle, although I will dare to touch upon some of the technical aspects in front of all of you, but I hope you will understand that I do it from the point of view of a general manager of a seed company. And so for me, the successful stint in the seed industry has been with the amalgamation of different functions and trying to make the business a success, in which research played a very key role. So I did have good exposure to research. So let me try to proceed with some of the slides that I have, and I will try to share them. 1 second.
While the slides are being shared, I would request all the participants, if you are having any pressing questions, we'll try to have an interaction at the end. Please put it in the chat box. I will be actively monitoring the chat box, and then using your questions and stuff to initiate a discussion after the talk.
Can you see my slide?
Yes, Ram.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. So I'm trying to talk about the next decade and beyond. I will touch upon some of the key aspects that, in my opinion, and based on what I have read and discussed, what are the likely trends. This is a new decade starting from this year, and it is a new dawn. So no future is same as the past. there will be significant changes. It's not business as usual, as Dr. Narayan said. There will be a new world order. Politically, the contours will be very different in this decade compared to the past. India's population will cross 150 crores, which itself is a huge opportunity and a challenge. There will be a new era in food and agri field, which some of the details we will see later. Lifestyle changes will make it a different world. I think we will see more rapid changes happening in this decade compared to what they were before, in spite of the temporary breaks applied by COVID. Some changes will happen because of COVID also, so we'll see some of them. Technology will drive the world. I think this is a very important thing. Like someone told, one of the IT industry specialists told us that the number of internet users in India will double in the next 5 years, and most of the growth will come from rural areas. So I think technology, whether it is digital technology or biotechnology or any other technology, will drive the world. Creativity, innovation, and research will play a very key role. Organizations and employees have to reinvent themselves to succeed. I think the last point is a very important point about which I will speak a little more later, that every turn, every milestone is an opportunity for organizations and its employees to reinvent themselves and find new ways of doing things. There are a few mega trends I foresee in this decade. First is that agriculture will move from a production-oriented system to a demand-driven system. This itself has huge impact on the type of crops grown, which should meet consumers' demands with the changing food baskets. And also some of the varieties that we will be selling seeds of will also have to fit into the new requirements. Consumers, and all these points are in relation to the seed business, so please note that also. Consumers moving to more nutritious and immunity boosting foods, which we have seen, this is a result of COVID due to the increased concerns post-COVID. So varieties that produce more nutritious crops will be needed, definitely. Natural resource conservation is high on the agenda of everyone nowadays, including the government, various stakeholders, environmentalists, as well as some of the farmers markets. I think as an industry, we have to recognize this. Water conservation and soil fertility restoration will be under focus. Appropriate economic practices have to be promoted. Emphasis on micro irrigation will be very huge during this decade. And so flood irrigation has to be replaced. I think we don't have much choice in that. So suitable varieties for this particular type of micro irrigation systems will have to be there. Climate change will show its impact more forcefully. We are already seeing, including the latest floods in Uttarakhand once again. Using modern technologies, seeds, and agronomic practices to fight temperature, floods, droughts, etc. will be the key. Traceability of food will assume a lot of significance. If I was talking to food industry people, they feel that the future, this decade, the traceability aspect will become hugely important. Consumers will pay more for food where they know what is the traceability, what they can trace the origin of the food, and they want with less chemicals, reducing these of pesticides and fertilizers to optimum levels and producing foods with zero chemical residues. Chemical residue has to be zero. I think this is something on which a lot of effort will be made. Increasing demand for organic food, input use efficiency will be very important. Varieties that need less chemicals will be preferred. Farmers have to be connected to markets. I think this is a current hot topic of discussion. Increase the role of private markets and contract farming. This will improve farmers' price discovery and value-added products in the closed-loop system. Contract farming in general will bring more technological support to farmers who will use seeds with specific traits and features. Some more mega trends: value-added agricultural exports thrust by the government. Currently $40 billion export with less than 15% value-added products to be improved to $100 billion with at least 30% value-added products. This is the target. You can see this in the agri-export policy of the government. Farmers' competitiveness, international competitiveness has to be improved. And this is possible only through technology introduction, higher yields, and